Okay. Good morning, everybody. I gave it to somebody. I don't have it. Good morning. Thank you for coming on a beautiful December morning in the greatest city in the world, New York City, overlooking one of the 5 greatest boroughs in the world, Brooklyn, where I'm from. He's from Queens, but we get along very well, despite that geographic divide. And I wanted to thank the governor, not only on this issue, but on so many. We have a great partnership. We work very well together, getting the federal government to help New York in as many ways as possible. And today is one example. Now, we all know about the heinous terrorist attack in San Bernardino. It's a sad reminder, but it's also a shocking reminder that we have something called a terror gap. Amazingly enough, if you're on a terrorist watch list, you can buy a gun. There's no prohibition against you. And we tried in the Congress twice now in the last 2 weeks to lift that blockage, to allow to prohibit. We've tried in the last 2 weeks to prohibit guns from being sold to those on the terrorist watch list, but the Senate did not go along. Too many senators were in the vice grip of the NRA, and they bucked it. It only lost by a few votes, but it lost. But we cannot let federal paralysis stop us from making New York or the country safe. And Governor Cuomo is ready to support legislation at the state level that would prevent those on the terrorist watch list from purchasing guns here in New York State. That's a great thing, but there's one problem. We need access to the terrorist watch list, and it's classified. And so I've spoken to the Department of Justice, and it's not immediately accessible. Today, we are telling the Department of Justice to come up with a protocol that allows New York State to prohibit those on the terrorist watch list from buying guns. If the federal government is paralyzed, that should not stop New York from doing the right thing. We don't need legislation to do it. We simply need the cooperation of the Justice Department. I've spoken to them late last week, and they said, well, we have it classified, this, that, and the other thing. I said, you've got to find a way. The governor feels that way, I feel that way, and so we're waiting for them to find a way. There are ways we believe they can do it. There are a number of different choices without compromising the terrorist watch list. If the federal government won't move to close the terror gap, the states should, and the federal government should facilitate that in whatever way possible, not stand in the way. So, that's really the long and short of it here. It's amazing that those on the terrorist watch list can buy guns. And we're going to continue to try to push a bill nationally, but we shouldn't have to wait. God forbid there's another terrorist incident. God forbid someone on that watch list buys a gun here in New York or anywhere else. Some of the states are ready to act. You heard the governor of Connecticut talk about it. He's in the same boat. He won't get hold of the terrorist watch list unless they change their protocols, but we're urging them to do it. And I've also been asked to talk about Ms. Malik and her being able to come into the country despite her websites, but I'll talk about that. The governor will speak on this, we'll do questions on this, then we'll talk about that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Senator Schumer. Pleasure to be with all of you, and it is a beautiful December morning. Almost a little too beautiful to be a December morning, but that is a different topic. First, I want to thank Senator Schumer for his leadership on this effort. On this issue, nobody has done more, nobody's worked harder, nobody's been more effective in protecting public safety in this state and around this nation than Senator Schumer. As he mentioned, he is from Brooklyn, I am from Queens. Those are 2 different geographic locations. We have slightly different accents, which you'll notice. We have some communication issues, but we work it out. And we have a great partnership that delivers for the state of New York. And we've done a lot of good all over the state, and we're going to continue to work together to do more. And this issue is just one example. When it comes to terrorism, we are facing a growing threat. That is the new reality. You know, at one time, terrorism was in the Middle East. It was over there, it was 6,000 miles away. It was oceans away. And you'd read about it in the newspaper, but you couldn't really see it as a New York present threat. Just in the past few weeks, Paris, San Bernardino, it's changed. The hate has discovered the internet. And the internet has made the 6,000 miles disappear. And it travels, it's a conduit for the hate to travel across the oceans. And it's present in communities all across the United States and countries around the globe. And we're seeing it manifest itself almost every week. I'm afraid, frankly, it's going to get worse and it's not going to get better. We have to act. We have to act quickly. We have to act smartly. And it is sheer madness what we are doing now. You can be a suspected terrorist, and it is not illegal to possess a firearm or explosives. And that's not my words. That's not a Democrat's words. It's not a governor's words. That's the GAO said that. The GAO did a study over the past 10 years. 2,000 suspected terrorists went to buy a gun in this country. Of the 2,000 suspected terrorists, over 90% were granted the right to buy a gun. I mean, think about it. It is a basic breach of national security. So what we're saying today is the federal government has a suspected terror list, no-fly list. Either the federal government should use that information when they do the background checks before people are allowed to buy guns. If you go to buy a gun in this state, they will run your information, check your information, do a background check against the federal database, which looks at past criminal history, mental health history, etc. It does not now check the terrorism databases. The federal government should either figure out how to use that terrorist database as part of their background check, option one, or establish a protocol that allows the states to do it, and New York State will. At least let the states use the information to defend themselves. This is the state of 9/11. To allow people who you believe have terrorist connections to buy guns is so irresponsible that people must be living in the state of denial. So the simple point is, if this country has information that says people are suspected terrorists to the extent that they don't let them board an airplane, well, if you can't step on an airplane, you shouldn't be allowed to pull a trigger. It's that simple. And time is not on our side. You're seeing an increasing acceleration of these types of activities. So we need federal action, and we need federal action quickly. Again, if they'll do the background checks with the information, fine. Otherwise, let us defend our own state and provide the information. Thank you.
And two more points that I didn't mention. One, do you know who proposed not allowing those on the watch list to buy guns? One of the greatest advocates, pro-gun people in America, George W. Bush, proposed this in 2007. But too many people in the Congress just bowed to the NRA, even when George Bush asked. We're getting closer now, but it's better. Second, one other point. The federal government does have a rule that says if it's against state law to buy a gun, we will not allow that gun to be sold. In other words, we will check whatever lists we have to make sure that happens. If a state has a different determination of misdemeanors than the federal government or anything else in the Brady law. But the one thing they say where they won't allow it is on the terrorist watch list because it's classified. They won't give the information to the states. We're saying come up with a way to do it. We know you can. And there are ways they can do it, protecting the confidentiality of the watch list, but at the same time allowing New York or Connecticut or any other state to prohibit terrorists from buying guns within their borders. Ready for your question. So today I am asking the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Jay Johnson, to immediately initiate a program that would check the social media sites of those admitted on visas to see if they are using words and talking about things like jihad, explosives, mass shootings. It's outrageous that this isn't already done. Tashfeen Malik, one of the two murderers, terrorists out in San Bernardino, it's now clear, had mentioned this several times. She used the word jihad. Evidently, 10 years on the 10th anniversary of 9/11, she posted a picture on her website of the planes crashing into the towers, sort of praising it. Why should someone like that get any kind of visa? No questions asked. No one going through the social media. We all do searches on the social media. Everyone, every day. Why isn't our Department of Homeland Security doing those? And the bottom line is they can, and they do it much better than us. They have computers that can work at lightning speed. And they can go through the lists and see who is using words on their Facebook page or anything else that shows they might have an inclination at terrorism. And we're not saying deny them a visa just because they use those words, but check it out. And had they checked out Tashfeen Malik a little more, maybe she wouldn't have been gotten a visa. Maybe those people in San Bernardino would be alive. These computers are amazing. They can do this very speedily. Now, people say, well, we don't want to slow down tourism and access, especially here in New York, we're the tourist capital of the country. We can do both. It's important to have terrorism, and we can do this in a quick and efficient way. But I'll tell you one thing. The worst enemy of tourism here in New York, the thing that would most deter terrorism here in New York is, God forbid, a terrorist incident here. So actually the travel industry, when we've said we have to propose other kinds of restrictions on visas, has been very, very positive and worked with us very closely. And there may be some legislation to close up the visa waiver program in the upcoming budget bill, but this is new. We don't need legislation. We are asking DHS to immediately initiate a program that checks social media sites of those who are applying for a visa. And it can't hurt, and it very well might help. You want to say something about this?
I totally concur. You know, we are, I believe, adjusting to a new reality. I don't believe San Bernardino was the last attack. Unfortunately, I believe you're going to see an acceleration of these types of attacks. The internet, communication, social media is only getting more advanced, and the word and hate is spreading even faster. So we're trying to find a balance now, and find it quickly in this new reality, between freedoms and between safety and security. Visa checks, I think, are a no-brainer. We learned that the hard way. The terrorism checks that we're talking about today, I believe that's a no-brainer. At the same time, we have to be intelligent about what we're doing. We can't allow partisan politics and hyperbole to become overheated. Calls that would suggest, well, all Muslims, one religion should be banned. I think that's actually counterproductive. We're standing in front of the great lady who reminds this great state every day what this nation is all about, and the promise of this nation and the freedom of religion was at the very foundation. So we're not going to lose ourselves in the process. I also think it's counterproductive to now be demonizing an entire religion at a time when we're looking to work with allies and work with Muslim allies to combat terror. We don't want more enemies. We want more allies. And some of the things that are being said in this country, I believe, can actually accelerate recruitment for ISIL because we're making their case of hate for them in their recruitment. So action, yes, quick action, smart action. Yes, it's a new reality and a new balance, but we don't want hyperbole and rhetoric and partisan politics that's actually going to inflame the situation.
Yeah. And I agree with the governor's statements. On the visa issue, of course, obviously, things would be checked out. Due process would be protected. We check these things out for other people who come to this country. And furthermore, the bottom line is very simple, and that is you don't have a right to a visa if you're not an American citizen or a green card holder. It's a privilege. It's a privilege we want for tourism, for commerce, for being part of the world, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be checked out thoroughly so that, God forbid, you're the 1 in 100,000 or 1 in a million who might have a bad idea in your head. You don't get into this country.